Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial video for Gotharman's Urano modular synthesizer. In this video we'll have a look at clock speed modulation. As you already know, you can tap up here to go to the sequencer main screen, and there we have a global BPM value which we can adjust with knob number 4 here. However, the only way to change this BPM value during a performance is by either going into that screen and just tweaking it manually, or using the sequencer morph knob, which then morphs all the sequences together, including the BPM value if you have set different BPM values for both layers. So this is not always very practical. So how else can we create dynamic rhythms, dynamic clock speeds inside the Urano? Well, luckily it's actually quite easy. We just have to choose a clock source first, and in good old modular synth fashion, let's use LFO1 here and use this to trigger or replace actually our global clock. And I'm just going to turn that up a little bit so it's a little bit faster. Doesn't matter which shape it is at the moment. And I'll go out here. And now we have to do a little outside the box thinking literally and use an actual patch cable. And this is just a small Dupfer Eurorack patch cable, so 3.5mm mono cable. And then we'll go to the trigger output menu. And here we can set up what the trigger outputs send out, or when they send out a trigger or gate signal. And we have all the usual modulation source options here. And I will choose LFO1. And here we can also see the triangle LFO coming in. And then I'll go to the trigger input menu. And we can just patch output 1 to input 1. And there we can already see the trigger or the gate signal coming in derived of that triangle LFO. You know, when it's above 50%, the trigger is put out. And if it's below 50%, then the trigger is also low. And here in the trigger input menu, we have to set up what this trigger actually triggers. And first we can let it trigger our triggers actually. So all 8 triggers could be triggered by an external trigger signal, or in this case by the LFO going out and back in. But we can also have it replace the master clock by a certain clock division amount, and let's say 16th note for now. So let's go to the sequencer and see what happens. Right now, nothing actually happens because we haven't actually started the sequencer. The clock is still running or already running in the background, but we have to hit start. And just to make this easier for you to see, before I do that, I'm just going to dial in 8 steps and I'll hit play. And now we can see the step indicator moving at the speed of the LFO. And we can also see this when we enable the step mode. And now when we go back inside the LFO menu and tweak the LFO speed, we can speed this up or slow this down. And of course, we can now modulate the LFO. For example, we could map it to a knob, so we have a performance control for the overall speed, or we can have a random generator, change the rate dynamically, randomly. So yeah, now we can control our clock and our sequencers with an LFO, just as we would often do in Eurorack or other modular synthesizer, for example. So even if you don't use your Urano modular synth with external analog gear, it's still nice to have a bunch of those cables around, because then you can actually just patch the Urano with itself to create some interesting things like that. So I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, and enjoy your Urano.